Diane's Ranch Diner. There it is.
Uh-huh.
2
Oh
days
yeah,
ago.
somebody mentioned that in the chat. Well, it's been an eventful weekend.
Why? Oh yeah, by golly.
Yeah, and this morning, Tim Walz announced that he will not be running for re-election. You got to say that is Nick Shirley for the win.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay.
That tells you how powerful, one motivated human being can be.
That's right. All righty then. We have here 9:32. I guess we're good to go, huh?
Yep.
Okay. All right, Mike. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Recording's rolling.
Okay, here we go. All right, guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen, crocodiles and my dad used to say, reptiles and crocodiles. Ladies and gentlemen, reptiles and crocodiles. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, here we go. Start the show. Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to 2026, my first show of 2026. A rough year at the end there. Lost my sister Diane on the 22nd of December. Had just a load of stuff that needed to be done in my life and in my business and in general. And right through the holidays and the New Year and the New Year's Eve and the New Year's Day. And I have been working 7 days a week. And I know that Charlie Kirk wouldn't like that because he has his new book is out, which is about taking that Sabbath day off. And I normally do. I normally take Sunday. And but this last Sunday I had to work, and boy, did we work hard. I had a whole crew of guys working. Because sometimes when you own real estate, that's commercial real estate, you have to do things when people aren't going to be in their businesses. And so I had to do a remodel of this little candy store for this little old lady that has been renting for a long time in the same space. And I had promised her to do it, not knowing that my sister would pass away the week before. And so there was just a whole bunch of stuff that had to be done. Sometimes it's got to be done. So the reason why I'm saying that is in life, sometimes things just got to be done. Like what Donald Trump did with Venezuela. That needed to be done for so many reasons. And you know what? There is no just one reason. There are a lot of reasons. But what I like about what he did was that for some reason, this guy has been in power in Venezuela for a long time, where he got into power the same way that I think Biden got into power, by cheating his way in. And nobody was doing anything about it. And if you start looking at the money and the oil and the gold and the suffering, it's like this country has so much oil. It's unbelievable. And lots of gold and precious metals. And they're dealing with the bad guys. So something had to be done. Something had to be done. And Donald Trump, I'll guarantee that he talked to his lawyers and his massive legal team to determine, well, what can we do? What is the most bodacious badass thing that we can do to wake up the whole world. And he did it. And of course, then, Putin is saying, oh, that's not even legal what you did. Oh, shut up, Putin. And, all the other, the Democrats, and they're whining and crying about every stupid thing and the unbelievable stuff. What Donald Trump did needed to be done. It's like, how bold. Fortune favors the bold, is the old saying. What a bold move to swoop in and basically nab the president of Venezuela and his wife. And I guess they've got now the son, one of the sons, or I don't know how many children he has, but whatever. Bold. Did he go to sleep at night, which I think everybody knows that he doesn't sleep a lot. But did he go to sleep at night wondering, it's like saying, does the lion worry about what the sheep thinks of him? No. He didn't lay in bed at night worrying what people are going to say about him, worrying what, even could happen to him, because he's like a super faithful man, I believe, because he gets this knowing in his heart what he's got to do. And then he just does it. And so I guess what I wanted to how I can kind of relate this to our lives, because isn't that this radio show is, I don't get up here and preach. It's not a preachy show. It's a discussion show. It's like our Sunday conversation. We call it the Sunday, the sermon. If you say, if the church does a sermon, not really a sermon. It's a conversation. And the people that are in the room also, help to finish the points and make better points. So, and I have here, on our Rumble page and on our X page, and we're also on, we're streaming on YouTube as well. People can comment and say things like, I just remember, I couldn't remember the guy's name, which was Maduro. Yeah, one person says, vice president who took over his slot is just as bad as Maduro. She's demanding that Trump return Maduro to power. Oh, you can demand all you want. But anyway, the point that I guess I'm trying to make is that we want to discuss these things. And then we want to say, how can that be relative to my life? How can I live my life in such a way that I can have that courage that I see in Donald Trump, which, gotta love it. It's wild, and it seems kind of unachievable for the average person to have such incredible courage to do these things, because he's risking his own life with all the, well, I mean, you get it. It's not just the laws. It's, well, what if Putin or the guy in China, I don't want to try and say his name, Xi Shu, whatever his name is in China, the premier of China. What if he says, well, let's just go in and do that and take Trump? I mean, these kind of things are either so courageous that it stops wars from happening, or these are the kind of things that starts wars into progress, into happening. Because if Putin and the guy from China, the emperor of China, decided to say, all right, look, we're not going to let this happen, because somebody sent it to me. And I'll give you a quote that I heard, and it's not from me, but let me just find it. The amount of oil, let me just find it here real quick. The amount of oil, and I think this is it right here. Okay. Yeah, so breaking, United States seizes Venezuela's $1 trillion in precious metals. That was one thing. So here it is. This is it. Venezuela currently has 303 billion barrels of crude oil reserves, which Trump says the U.S. now controls. Oil prices are trading at $57 a barrel, making Venezuela's total reserve. This is the reserve already pumped out of the ground. The reserve's worth $17.3 trillion. Okay? So that's just oil. Then there was the gold I talked about also over there. All I can say is that the bad guys want that oil and that gold also, right? When you're talking about trillions of dollars, the bad guys want that oil just as bad as we do. And it's kind of like your soul. Satan sees your soul as worth more than that oil. That oil's worth $17 trillion at current market price. What is one man's soul worth to the devil? He wants that soul. He wants it bad, but God wants it even more. God owns it. So the bad guys, and this is my point, the bad guys could say, you know what? We're going to go and get Donald Trump now. We're going to go bomb that stupid White House. That's what I'm saying, is that this is such a bold move, that I'm sure that they had to have, used all the supercomputers in the world to figure out all the scenarios of what could happen. And they went to Donald Trump and they said, these are all the things that could happen if you do that. And he looked at it and he said, I don't care. God put it in my heart. This is what we're going to do. And you know what? Wow. What a decision to be made. There's not one of us that's within earshot that has a thimble of that courage. I hate to say it. Not even me. Not even you. Not anybody. Anyway, we'll be right back. We'll talk more about this. Alan Masters here, Perilous World Radio. Just talking about this courage that Donald Trump has. It's the kind of courage that you read about in the Bible. It's the Moses kind of courage. To go to the Pharaoh, knowing that they could just arrest him right on the spot. But he went anyway, and for some reason, he pissed off the Pharaoh a number of times. And then he says, go away from me. Go away. And it's like, somehow there is such a strength that all the evil in the world is afraid of it. It's that strength that is from God. It's not that we have strength, it's that God has strength. So how do we tap into that strength of character, that faith? It's not something you can learn. It's like Trump didn't go to president school. I mean, maybe he did, the School of Hard Knocks, doing real estate in New York, but that's not President of the United States President School. He didn't take, classes on war. This guy is driven from a special place. I want to be driven from that special place. And he's not perfect. I'm not saying he's perfect. You look at guys like George Washington. Far from perfect. The guy had wooden teeth, for goodness sakes. Far from perfect are these people. God doesn't pick perfect people to do his perfect work. He just picks people and then he empowers them to move forward. But he's picking a special kind of person that he hears whispering in their quiet moments, Lord, give me strength. Lord, give me wisdom. Lord, give me understanding, because I know I don't know. He's hearing that from these people. And that's why he comes and uses these imperfect people to do his perfect work. And it's funny. We look at we look at all the things that have happened in the last, I don't know, let's just say 10 years, the last decade since Donald Trump first came down the elevator in 2015 to run for the 2016 election and all that. I mean, I think all of us kind of thought, yeah, this is going to be interesting. You got the guy from whatever that TV show he was doing. Can't even think of the name of it anymore. Listen, it was a #1 TV show. He got a star on the Walk of Fame. He won all kinds of Emmys and all. I can't remember the name of the stupid show anymore because guess what? That was a good show, Apprentice. But it wasn't near as, this is the real thing. We got to see what he was going to be like. We got to see his firm hand. You're fired. Remember that? But that's so far in the past now. He was president of the United States for 4 years, and then he wasn't president of the United States for 4 years. They tried everything on that guy. And I'm not going to compare him to anybody out of the Bible, because if you do, they go, oh, no, Alan says he was like somebody out of the Bible, whatever, and because I there's a few people that come to mind where they tried everything on these people out of the Bible and worked. Nothing worked because the person, if I could say it, from the Blues Brothers, he was on a mission from God. And when you're on a mission from God, and just because I say that, you're like, oh, yeah, that guy, he's been married 3 times and he grabbed women in the crotch and he did all these things. Imperfect people do God's perfect work. Hope he chooses you, you big sinner. Hope he chooses you. I hope he chooses me because I'm a sinner. I'm an imperfect man. There's no perfect men besides Jesus. He picks people that he sees something, the inclination of their heart is towards him. Right? And maybe they have lots of fear and doubt, and maybe they're full of lust and pride and ego. And yeah, I just described Donald Trump to a T, full of lust and pride and ego, and maybe he was greedy. We don't know. We can only assume that, the guy must have been kind of a woman hound out there doing all those things out there that he did when he was a young man. But you know what? He who is without sin cast the first stone. Maybe that man has finally come to the end of that worldly road and said, what now, Lord, will you use me for? Show me, put me to work. I've done a lot of things in my life. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I should be the one. Because I remember he was even being interviewed when he was in his 30s. He was only in his 30s when he was interviewed by, I don't know, it was either Oprah or 60 Minutes. They're like, would you ever want to be president? He goes, no, I wouldn't like that at all. But he knew he had kind of an inclination. Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe he thought, yeah, I could do it because it's just a job for a guy who's not afraid to make bold decisions. But I got a good life. Why would I want to screw that up? I got golden toilets, for goodness sakes. Gold everywhere. I live in the gold towers. I got Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis and Maseratis. Why would I want to have all that taken away to be the president of the United States who nobody's going to like me? I wouldn't want to do it either. But he did. Yeah. What does it take to have that kind of courage? I think what it takes, so I come back to, how do we make that relevant to our lives? In your everyday life that has very few decisions to make. See a commercial break coming up, and I thought, oh, I got so much to say about this, and I don't want to get stuck in the middle of a commercial break. So we look at what this man has done, the president of the United States. It is unbelievable. I honestly, if I just close my eyes and I go, okay, so he swooped in with his best of his best, and they scooped up the president of Venezuela, who is a sick, evil man who has a fortress. Scooped him up. I don't think anybody got killed in the whole thing. Who does that? Anyway, so how does that relate to you and me and our lives? Talk about that on the other side. Nice long segment. Be right back. All right, I'm Alan Masters of Perilous World Radio. Foundation of Human Understanding, FHU.com is our website, FHU.com. We are on Rumble. We are on Spaces on X, which is just audio. We are on X, which is video, like Rumble is also video. We are on YouTube. We have Perilous World Radio as a YouTube channel. And we're on our website. You can find everything there. You can watch, you can listen, you can learn all about my father, Roy Masters' teachings and all his 20 plus books. If this kind of talk is intriguing to you. So what I said in the last segment there, I wanted some time to kind of runway to be able to unpack this. I look at my life, and all I can do is look at my life because I'm in this body looking out from within. And I think to myself, you know, I make a lot of decisions every day. A lot of decisions. I have a number of buildings that I own that in the last 5 or 6, 7 years, I started buying these old buildings, 125-year-old buildings. And God knows what you're going to find in these old buildings. Ugh. Came from one of them moments ago. The problems with a 125-year-old building is like being a surgeon with a 125-year-old or maybe 100 or a 90-year-old person going, ay, ay, ay. You do this, and then the side effect is this, and then that's going to happen, and that's not going to heal, and this. It's a lot of decisions to make all the time. So I own 2 buildings that are 125 years old. I own one big building that's 20,000 square feet that's 115 years old. Now, when you take a 2-story, 115-year-old building, 2 stories that's 20,000 square feet, you got to be careful what you can do, because you could do something that could cause a catastrophe. So the average person never has to deal with this kind of crap, and I deal with it all the time. And then I've got cows having babies in the snow and horses, and all these, I have to make decisions all day long. So I'm trying to lay a foundation of this decision-making process that people make. So Donald Trump, he had buildings on top of buildings, but his buildings are skyscrapers, and he's building them from the ground up, and hotels and casinos and all kinds of things. And he's got all these businesses with his clothing, and he's got his kids have their businesses, having to make decisions all the time. So you would say to yourself, well, for him, Donald Trump, to make a big decision like this, just another decision he makes in the day. How does that how do you take that decision that man made, and then you kind of say to yourself, how would I make that kind of decision? Well, maybe you'll never have to. Please God, you never have to. But when people are asked to make a decision what they want to eat for dinner, they sit there and go, well, I don't know. I think maybe I want to have a steak, but the fish sounds good. And, oh, look at this. Maybe we'll have meatloaf. Well, and I don't really care for meatloaf, so I think maybe I'm going to have some linguine with some shrimp on it. And this goes on and on. They can't make the simplest decisions in their life. And if you pressure them and say, come on now, the waitress has got 20 other tables. They're like, oh, you're pressuring me now. I can't even think. Oh, my God. What kind of a life do you live if you can't even decide what to eat for dinner, for lunch, for whatever? Think about this. Imagine having to make some kind of a big decision for your family's sake. It's horrifying to think the average person can't make a clear decision. Why not? Have you ever wondered why you can't make easy decisions? Because of the monkey brain. The monkey brain is yelling, get this, get that, get this, get that. It wants to keep you like a spinning top. Around and around you go and around. And to make a decision to stop the top, to stop the spinning. What would life be like if you were a clear thinking, self-motivating individual? Life would be great. I'm telling you right now. Life for me is great. If I have to make a decision, I take a back and I see the spinning, all the different choices to make, a steak or linguine or whatever. Who cares? Take a step back. I see all the insanity and I just go, I'll have a steak. Whatever. And then I live with it because it's a decision I made. And maybe I'll learn something from it. You know, I really wanted linguine, but I know the linguine is much more fattening and the steak is better for me. You sit there in the mind and then this thing called Satan wants your energy. And that's how he mines you like a drilling rig, mining your energy through the top of your head, sucking your life out of your brain, keeping you swirling in his swirling cesspool of thought. I don't live like that. I don't live like that. I see it. I can see it in my own head, and I take a step back. Step back, and I go, okay, that's all the swirling, the material world, the worldly world. And, you know, what does it say? There's a saying, and forgive me for not getting it exactly right, but if you are the friend of the world, you are the enemy of God. And we so care about the world, what the world thinks about us. We only care. We only think about what is the world going to think about me? And when I say the world, your ecosystem of friends and your family members, your teachers if you're a young person in school, your peers, the people that you work with. Because I will tell you, when I got to that place in my life where I decided, you know what, I came to the end of the road. I'm driving this car and I just drove off into a field and I was like, what happened to the road? And God put it into my heart. Well, that was the world's road. The world built that road. The world built that road. Now you are here with me. Take my hand. Walk with me. And my life has changed so much since I came to the end of the road of worrying about what all my peers would think of me, all the other journalists that I was working with all these years. You know, I thought, oh, well, they're gonna think I'm kind of a kook. And I thought, who cares? Who cares what they think? I think that show was called Audience of One. The only one we should care about is God, what he thinks. What does God think about our choices? That's all that matters. So, I just have changed kind of how I do things. I've changed why I do things. I've changed a lot of things. It's wow. And I haven't had to change at all. They've just changed. Change happened. So I'll just tell you, I don't live in my head. Like Jan called me. She says, I'm not really feeling that well today. You mind if I don't do the show? And I'm like, no, it's whatever. I wish you'd tell me a little sooner. But, you know, I don't prepare for this show. I was using a nail gun, putting in 2x4s in this freezer from the early 1900s that had caught on fire at some point. And when we took all the not the siding, but the lining off the inside of the freezer that was a walk-in freezer, it was like being held together by nothing because it was burned up 2x4s. So before I did this show, I was inside of a walk-in freezer that's got to be 75 years old, and I was putting up new studs and building a wall inside of there to put drywall on to make it a kind of a cold storage. But so I looked at my clock and I go, all right, it's time to go. I'll be back, guys. Guys are working. On the way here, I thought, man, what must it be like? How can I have courage? Wait, Donald Trump has courage. And then I thought, what does it take, Lord, to have that kind of courage? For a normal workaday Joe, what does it take for us guys and ladies to have the kind of courage? And God said, talk about that on your show. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I drove, it's like, I don't know, 3.5 minutes from where my other job site is, where I'm working on that stuff, back over to the studio over here. And in that time, I just thought, yeah, that's what I'll talk about. Yeah. Yeah. What does it take? Lord, what does it take? So where does it start? You're wondering, okay, well, where does it start? Where does that whole courage thing start? It starts in your faith. How deep is your faith? Remember that song, How Deep Is Your Love? How deep is your love and faith for Jesus? For the one that gave his life for you and me and people he never saw. We weren't even a twinkle in our ancestors' eyes. He said, for the sake of humanity, brothers and sisters and all the children of God, I will be obedient to my Father and do whatever he asks me to do. And I will be the lamb, the sacrificial lamb. Wow. Think you could do it? That's the question you have to ask yourself. What if God asked you to be Abraham? Whew. I had too many microphones open. Maybe it'll even sound better now. Okay. Last segment of this hour. Welcome back. Alan Masters here. So how deep is your faith? Where does it start? Where does it start for you? When you open your eyes in the morning, do you think, my wife this, or my friend that, or my boss this, or my husband that? Or do you just wake up and be thankful to be alive? I mean, maybe that's just gratitude is a great place to start. To be thankful that God has given you one more day to endeavor to perfect the you that is you. Not just put on nice clothing and do your hair up all nice and put your lipstick and your makeup on if you're a woman, or put your fancy clothing on, or whatever, your favorite shoes if you're a guy, and just to make a nice puppet, go out into the world and puppet around, and somebody else is pulling the strings, your boss, your wife, your husband, your peer group. God, that was a horrible life. Oh, I did it for 50 years. Ever since I was a teenager. I'm 65. So when I was 15, 16 years old, I started trying to be what all the other guys were that were my age. But only, I wanted to be a good version of what they were. Like I wasn't a guy that used swear words. I still am not a guy that uses swear words. I have a couple choice words I use, and most of them are, what comes out south, the west, east, the back end of a cow. Anyway, the point is, wherever it comes out. But I've never been one of those guys that would just use the F-bomb like it was just a word. I have never been a drinker of alcohol or a smoker or taker of drugs. Never, never, never. It was always kind of funny to me, I thought. A weird thing, like tickling somebody. You can only take so much tickling before it turns into a, it's like you're taking it too far. But these people live and they're constantly, drinking and taking drugs and living in this laughing, crazy, tickling kind of a world where everything is just laughing and if when they're not, but what about when they're not getting tickled? Then what are they like? Well, then you get to see. You get to see what they're like because what's inside. One of my guys, one time he says, I don't want to have people tickling my ears. Even people that tell you how handsome you are, how pretty you are, how good of a person you are. It's all another drug. And if you imbibe on that drug, you're going to get high. And then guess what they are? They are your drug. So you look for approval from those people. When you see them, you look like, okay, take a deep breath. Oh, look at his hair. Oh, look at how handsome he is. Oh, look at that. Oh, you're so good at what you do. It's tough because we have admiration for people that are good at what they do. Like I'm talking about Donald Trump, but I'm talking about his character. I don't think he's a handsome man, but he's not an ugly man. I don't think that he's like particularly bright. I think he's kind of a bad communicator in his own weird way. I look at my dad was an eloquent communicator. It was beautiful to listen to him speak. And man, if he would have been given a chance to be the president of the United States, wow, that was wild. But that wasn't his thing. He wasn't supposed to be. He was supposed to do what he did for his life of 93 and a half years. Or 93, a little over 93. But 93 years. My sister just passed away. She was 69. That's just so sad. I'm 65. I cannot imagine only living another 3 or 4 more years, I can't imagine. I got so much to do in my life. I know that I'm supposed to do more than what I've done. And let me tell you, I have done 10 times more than the average person in this world. The experiences of my life, if there was a pile, it would be a Mount Kilimanjaro-sized pile of experiences in my life all over the world. Every week I was doing something wild and crazy. And even to this day, the average person doesn't do probably a tenth of the things that I do because I'm a very active individual. I don't want to just sit home and be a potato. I'm not saying you're a potato, but if the potato skin fits, that's everybody's got their calling in life. And some people are too afraid to go out and take chances. To be courageous, move forward and take a hit and get back up and say, okay, well, that one was my fault. I'm going to be more careful in the future. But I know I'm supposed to do a lot more in my life. And I know that. So I can't unknow it. I cannot unknow that I'm supposed to do something in my life that I don't even know what it is yet. But I know it's coming. So what is that? I don't know. Somebody says, potatoes have some roots and eyes. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Anyway, so I said earlier, and I'll go into the next hour with this. Where does this kind of courage start with what we're seeing with Donald Trump? He must have kept on asking God, why do you keep putting me in these positions and then I fail and you still move me forward? Because it takes a lot of failures. Also, look at Edison with the light bulb. He did 5,000 light bulbs before he finally figured it out. People probably thought he was nuts in that laboratory and things going wrong. And And if it wasn't for that kind of stick-to-itiveness, we wouldn't have the light bulbs we have today. All those are all outdated now. So it doesn't. We'll take a break. There's another hour to go. Hang with us. Hour 2 of the program, Perilous World Radio. I'm Alan Masters. Trying to kind of wrap my tiny little pea brain around the whole concept of having the courage it takes to do what Donald Trump did with Venezuela and Maduro, or whatever his name is, to just snatch that guy out of his own castle, his own fortress. And, you know, props goes out to our, what do you want to call them? I don't know. Agents of God, of good, of America, that were able to pull that off. The brilliance, absolute brilliance for our military to be able to do what they did without anybody getting killed. I mean, I wonder if that was even a consideration. We're going to do this without anyone getting killed. If you have to shoot somebody, shoot them in the leg. Don't shoot them in the head, because you know the kill shot is to the head. Because a lot of times they are wearing these vests, you know, so you shoot them in the torso, it doesn't hurt them. So you have to wonder, was that part of the consideration? We're going to snatch this guy right out of his fortress so that all the others with their fortresses, because remember, they've got $17 trillion worth of oil in the bank in reserves and $1 trillion worth of gold. With all that money and all that power, the guy's been in power for like 17, 18 years, whatever it's been. They just went in and took him. Took him. Amazing. Props to our military. Unbelievable. And our intelligence people. And I love how Trump, he's like, you know, you can't tell too many people, because the Senate, they talk, they leak. So how many people are in that little group of, you know, Marco Rubio and Donald Trump and whoever, you know, Pete Hegseth, who, you know, the rest of the world looks at Pete Hegseth and they're like, oh yeah, he was a Fox and Friends guy. Before he was a Fox and Friends guy, he was in the military. I love what's going on with Pete Hegseth. It's great to see that, like, Donald Trump had a TV career, but it was only on top of the cherry on top of his business life. And Pete Hegseth was probably one of the best of the Fox and Friend people. I hate to say the new Fox and Friend people they need some help, because it takes character. That's what we saw in Pete Hegseth. Handsome guy, made some mistakes, as we all do in his personal life. Not going to judge that. That's not my job. Jesus said, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to judge Pete Hegseth or any of you. I'm here to hold myself accountable for my life and maybe shine some light on some things for you folks too in your lives. Make some good points maybe. But you look at Pete Hegseth and you look at Will Cain. Love that guy. You see character beyond their ability to read a teleprompter. Am I right? Yes, I'm right. We don't love these good-looking people because they're good-looking. That's nice that they're good-looking. We love what comes out of their mouth, because what is inside is what we see coming out, which is character. And even though Pete Hegseth, when he was on TV, he was, having his personal problems, and his mother, he had problems with his mother and so on and so forth. When Donald Trump said, I want you to be the Secretary of War or Secretary of Defense, or whatever it was called before, he's like, I'll do it. So the question is, and it comes way back to the beginning of the show when I said, what does it take? And I said, if God said to you, I'm going to have you be Abraham, bring your son, your beloved son, and offer him to me as sacrifice. Oh my God. I would say, you got to pick somebody else. I can't do that. Not going to do it. Sorry. It's not going to do it. But, easy to say, But when God speaks into your heart, all I can think is that you probably just go, okay, this is the power of the universe. This is the creator of everything. But he says here, Trump is working at God's pleasure, whether he wants to or not. Good point. That's like I'm saying right here. You may not want to do this, but when God speaks into your heart, into your soul, into the breath that is filling your lungs, that is giving you life, and you realize it could all stop that quick because maybe you won't be able to breathe if you say no or even think no. You know the power of God when it happens to you, which it's happened to me. And it's like, there's no question, whatever you want. I'm not going to ask how high to jump. I'm just going to jump as high as I can if you say jump. So anyway, all I can say is that we are at such a special place in history right now. What an amazing blessing it is to be witnessing all this going on. Yeah, somebody says, Chess Dude says, we are selfish, unlike Abraham. God gave his only begotten son, but tested Abraham for his worthiness. Very good point. Very good point. God did what he asked Abraham to do, or us to do. But then he brought Jesus back. Because this world is not the end. In other words, when you die, if you put your faith in the world, then you dead. If that's it, if all there is this, then you dead. And maybe even then God will say, you know what? You, O ye of little faith, like he did with the doubting Thomas. Thomas, O ye of little faith. Doubted God as he walked with Jesus, was still doubting. Some of us are just doubters. Some of us are just live fearful lives. I remember when I was a little boy and my sister was afraid to be in the bathroom by herself, and she'd say, Alan, come into the bathroom with me. And I'd go, oh, geez, no. And oh, so my sister was always afraid of little things like that. So all these little memories of our lives came up since she passed away. And I think probably because sometimes when you're around somebody that has a certain, like my sister when we were little kids, just little kids. I was 4, she was 8. And my little 4-year-old granddaughter, oh, she's as smart as a whip. Smart as a whip, conscious as can be. And when I was 4, I'm sure I was the same exact way. And I remember thinking, I don't want to be afraid. You know, in the Bible, what's it say? Do not be afraid. How many times does it say in the Bible? I mean, hundreds of times. Don't be afraid. And so I remember in the darkest times of my life, I remember thinking, if I am afraid, fear is the opposite of fear. When you choose fear, you have to choose it. You choose fear. You are choosing the dark side because you are choosing to put faith in fear instead of faith in God. Yes. Okay, this is a hard one. Jazak B. Amatz, do not fear. Hebrew? I don't know. Is it Hebrew, Chess Dude? Anyway, from the Rumble page. It says, consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. So I don't live my life in fear because fear it's always there. It's omnipresent fear. You can grab fear out of thin air. You can just reach up and grab it and there's some fear. You could say, okay, well, I got it in my hand. What am I going to be afraid of? Oh my God, I'm 65 years old. I don't have much longer to live. Oh my God. You could, if it doesn't, it's like just pull it out of thin air. Fear is always there. You can conjure up fear. Can you conjure up faith? Can you conjure up faith to where your heart grows and your strength of character grows? You can't, because there is no fake courage. It's either you either have it or you don't, and you don't know until you have a choice to make of fear or faith. That is a determining factor. That's the moment. We'll be right back. Alan Masters evidently giving a sermon. Not really giving a sermon, just talking about stuff. So that was Shizak is spelled Hazak. Hazak Biamatz. Do not fear. Did I say that right now? Yes, dude. I'm not good at Hebrew. I know a few funny words that my dad taught us in Yiddish. But anyway, where does your faith come from? Where is the genesis of your faith? So if you dig down deep inside. I had this experience one time where I was, after we lost a baby that was born, that passed away in childbirth on my 30th birthday. So at this point now, that was 35 years ago. But I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why God would do that to me. Why me, God? That was what I used to say. Why me? Why I'm one of yours. Aren't I one of yours? I mean, I've always thought I was one of yours. Why me? Why Jan? Why us? Why her and I together? We had this beautiful little boy, beautiful little guy. And then a couple years later, here comes a little girl. Ultrasound shows little girl on my birthday. On my birthday, which lands on Father's Day every so often, June 21st, longest day of the year. Every now and then it's Father's Day. Well, this happened to be Father's Day, or at least Father's Day weekend. But it was my birthday. The baby was a little premature, but things started happening. We went to the doctor and they said, oh, this is a real problem. This baby is not properly all put together by God. Not going to be viable outside the body. And then sure enough, she gave birth to this baby on my birthday and it passed away. Perfect little person, but it just wasn't viable outside the outside of the womb. As soon as the umbilical cord, actually, as soon as it was born, it just passed. Why? Wouldn't you ask why? Wouldn't you raise your fist at God? I never did that. But would you say, why did you do this? No, I didn't do that. I just said, why? Why me? Because we're tested in life in many, 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 many ways, each to their own ability to be able to withstand whatever that test is. Perfectly designed test. The doctor said, don't go looking. Why this happened, there's no real reason why. It's a whole bunch of medical mumbo jumbo, but it always happens to the second child, and it always happens to a female child. And this was our second child and a female child. It was just a hiccup. Because you could say, well, why? Why did your sister Diane pass away so early at 69? Why did your dad? Why didn't he live to 100? Why isn't he still here? He would be 98 years old right now. Why come your dad doesn't live to be 900 years old like they did in the Bible days? Why is always the question. Why? So, I asked. And I've wondered why ever since. But at a certain point, I was walking by this psychiatrist's office, or is it kind of a naturopath psychologist, I guess, psychiatrist, psychologist, naturopath, kind of an interesting Indian doctor. And I had heard about this guy, and I dropped a car off to get some new tires put on it, and I thought, oh, I'll just walk back. And so I'm walking by, and I go, oh, there's the doctor's office that everybody's talking about in town. And when you have a dad like mine, who's everything is spirituality and psychology and how your mind can keep you well and all these things. This guy kind of was like an interesting twist to that whole thing. I thought, all right, well, so I walked in, I knocked on the door. I've told this story before, but what the guy did for me, I didn't have an appointment or anything, but he saw me and he says, "What's the matter?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know, but there's something really bothering me inside, something internal that is just unrest. Unrest, dis-ease inside of my soul." I was going to say to you, this story is very relative to your life, because how do you do this deep dive, deep digging? Well, so this guy taught me how, and maybe this is for your sake. So he's sitting there looking at me, and he's like, "So you don't know what's wrong with you?" He said, "Well, let's go for a deep dive. Let's go inside and see what's there." And I thought, "What do you mean? You're going to stick something down my throat or up my rear end?" He says, "Lay down." And I said, "Can I keep my clothes on?" He says, "Yes, keep your clothes. Just lay down on this table here in his doctor's office. Just close your eyes." He says, "What do you see in there?" So this is kind of like a little meditation, isn't it? In my dad's meditation exercise, you sit in a chair or you can lay down, however you do it. You sit in a chair, close your eyes. What do you see? You see all the things that are going on inside of your mind, right on like a movie screen in front of your mind. You see all these thoughts and all these ideas and all this flotsam and jetsam floating by. And he says, "Well, so go a little deeper." Because I said, "I just see thoughts and things." Go deeper. Oh, I go deeper, look a little deeper in there. "What do you see now?" He said, "I don't really see anything." He says, "All right, go deeper still. Just keep looking deep, deep, deep. Like you're almost like swimming to the bottom of this deep where it's dark and you really can't see anything, but you're like free diving, swimming deep, deep down, down, and maybe you're going to find the bottom, or you're going to find something." So I'm going deeper, and he kept saying, "Just go deeper, go deeper." So I finally saw this big ball of like what looked like sinew. He said, "Really?" And he was kind of shocked, and I was kind of shocked myself that I saw this ball of sinew. And inside of this ball of sinew, I'm not going to take you on the long version because everybody's heard it before for the most part. There was a rat inside of there. And it was the rat that had made a home in me when I accepted being sneaky as a little boy. And that rat, have you ever seen a baby swordfish that's only 3 or 4 inches long? They look exactly like the 2,000-pound swordfish that is caught world records, 2,000 pounds. They start out as this little tiny little itty bitty little fish with a little sword on it. They look exactly the same, but they're only 3 or 4 inches long. That's things that get inside of you and grow into giant monsters in there. You got to go for a deep dive. We'll be right back. So, welcome back to the show. I go for this deep dive. What do I do? What do I do once I see the rat inside of me? Once I see the little monster that had grown in there from just a little tiny little transgression as a little boy. You have these. You have these transgressions. You all do. Every single one of you, unless your name is Jesus Christ, have these transgressions away from the truth. Every time you choose the world over the truth and God, it's a little transgression, and it's just growing, slowly but surely, like the little tiny swordfish that starts out a few inches long and can be, 10, 11, 12 feet long. I caught a 238-pound swordfish, marlin, 238 pounds, huge. Started out as a little tiny, little itty bitty minnow, we'll call it. We all have these things that have grown inside of us into these big, ugly things. Pride, whatever it is. See, mine was a funny one. It was a rat. It's like, it was a rat. There's a rat. And the guy says, what do you mean there's a rat inside that? He said, open up that ball, tear it open. Tell me what's inside of it. So I did, and I saw this rat inside of a glass globe. And I says, a rat in there. He says, well, whose face? What does it look like? I said, it won't let me see its face. Let me just tell you, the moment of truth was when I realized, first of all, this rat was playing games with me. It wouldn't let me see its face. It kept turning its back to me. And every time I'd look the other way, it'd turn its back. And I'd look this way, and it'd turn its back. And I'd try and see its face. When the realization happened, it was like, OMG. I said to the doctor, I said, I know what it is. I opened my eyes because I was laying there with my eyes closed. I said, I know what it is. And he looks at me and he goes, what is it? He said, the rat is me. Because in one moment of realization, as my dad called it, the moment of truth, boom, the truth, it's like it was a truth bomb inside of me went off. The truth is, I knew it, that I had embraced that sneaky little rat. That sneaky little rat had made a home inside of me, and I had nurtured the little sneaky rat, the little, you could say that maybe your rat is one of pride. Maybe your rat is one of lust. Maybe your thing that somebody here, and that's exactly right, evil does not want us to see its face. Maybe your alien on board is whatever happened to you that you hated or that you embraced. One of those two things. Maybe you embraced being sneaky like I did. Maybe you embraced being lustful, gentlemen, for the most part. Maybe you embraced being prideful as, you know, if I didn't have this pride, nothing would get done. You embrace it. Excuse. Maybe you embraced fear. Maybe you embraced, well, you put it on there because you know what it is. You already know what it is. Oh boy. But when I saw that, I thought, I know what to do. I know what to do. And I sat up and he goes, what? He goes, what are you going to do? Remember, it was just so cool because he didn't know. He didn't know what it was. He was just a guy that just kind of had some cool little way of helping me find kind of where reality was. Which the reality was I needed to truly look deep inside of myself. You need to look deep inside of yourself to see why your relationship with your husband or wife is horrible. Because you hate them for that, or you're pissed off at them for this. You haven't gotten what you wanted from that, whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about. It's the thing, the thing, whatever that thing is. You all know who it is and what it is. This person says, when I made eye contact with demons, they were terrified of me. Well, there you go. It's the truth. Because sometimes you'll see them, they'll see you, and they're going to run. Especially if you call them out for what they are. Go on, demon. Get behind me, Satan. But, also you can say that to them and they'll laugh at you sometimes because it's fake courage. But point is, we know what our personal demons are. We all know. We all know. I can't say much more than that because we do know. We know what it is. We each one different. And some are many. Some are many. We've allowed so many things in The door was wide open, and in comes. Look at all these people are coming in this country from not anymore, but because the door was wide open, and Biden just let anybody come into our country. And so now what do we have? Lots of demons in our country, and they're doing their worst. They're killing our young people. They're getting drunk and running over children, and they're doing all kinds of dastardly things. So I come back to when I woke up from that moment of understanding, I remember thinking to myself, how do I get rid of this thing inside of me now that I've been nurturing? Because you nurture your demon. You nurture your demon. And it likes you and you like it. And I realized I just have to stop. And it's pretty simple. You have to stop feeding the demon, because that's really what you're doing. Every time you choose your old way, every time you choose to be angry, every time you choose to be dishonest. I told this story. Where did maybe I'll tell this story because I can't remember if I told you guys or not, but I went to Home Depot the other day and I bought a bunch of big giant items. And there was one little tiny little item that was, as big around as a bottle cap. That was just a cap for a piece of plumbing. And I paid for all this stuff and I put it on my Home Depot Pro account card where you get little points. And so I was really making sure I like to get my points, because then every now and then I get a free rental or you get a $50 credit, or, it's like, I'm a good Jew. I like to make sure I get my points. So I paid for everything, and I was at the self-checkout counter, which I always thought is odd because people can steal little things and you would never know. But anyway, innocently, I paid for all the big things, and then I was walking through the door and I said goodbye to the lady that was helping me. It was Happy New Year kind of a thing, and out the door I went, and I looked down as I passed through the second set of sliding doors. I looked down and I saw the little thing that I forgot to pay for. And I stopped my cart and I go, I'm not going to hell for that. I said it out loud. I'm not going to hell for that. And there's a guy kind of walking behind me. And when I stopped, he had to kind of go around me. And he looks at me and I look at him and he goes, for what? I go, for this. I held it up and I go, I didn't pay for it and I'm not going to hell for that. And the guy started laughing. And I go, I'm going back in. I turned my cart around, went back in, and I held it up to the lady that was at the self-checkout thing, and I go, I'm not going to hell for this. I didn't pay for it. And she laughed, and I paid for it. But I don't want to feed that thing that said, go, go, go. You're outside. They'll never know. They will never know. You're right, Satan. You're right. They will never know. But you know who knows? God knows, because he watched me transgress, go move away from him. What do you got to do to be closer to God? Move closer to God, not do things that take you away from God. That's spitting in God's face when you cheat and you know you're cheating. And as you wake up, you see yourself sinning. You see yourself wanting to sin. Something prompting you to sin. Do it, do it, do it. They'll never know. You're already outside the doors. Go, go, go. You see it, you hear it, you know it, and you know it's wrong, and you do it anyway. You do it anyway. You missed the test. Now you got to wait for the next test to come up. And for most people, maybe it's not going to come up for 6 months or a year before some little thing happens where you got to make a choice between heaven and hell, because that's really the choice you're making. Whether you get away with a $3.69 piece of plumbing, and when you go to hell and you step off the hell bus and the guy next to you in the line waiting to get into hell says, what are you in for, Mac? And you hold up a little piece of plumbing and you go, I got it for free. You go, was it worth it? Nope. It's not worth it. Why? Why do we do it then? Because we're stupid. We got to stop being so stupid. Seriously. I've been stupid my whole life. And I had a dad that was always like leading the way, showing me how to do it. And I still couldn't do it because until you decide, I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So until you decide you want to be closer to God and you are willing to give up everything that you thought used to give you advantage but didn't, because you thought that was why you would do it, is it was supposed to give you some advantage, right? You got it for free. My slogan used to be, if it ain't free, it ain't for me. And I joked around about that all the time. If it ain't free, it ain't for me. And people would say to me, well, you want one of these? You want one of those? You want one of these? I'm like, nope. If it ain't free, it ain't for me. Well, how do I make it free for you? Well, I could do a little bartering. It was kind of it was a sickness because I could get almost anything for free through twisting and turning the truth or making some sort of a deal. It's not worth it. We'll be right back. We'll finish this show off. All right, welcome back. Yes, if it ain't free, it ain't for me. Oh my gosh. And then you get off track in life, chasing the career, the advantage. You know what they say, don't take advantage of people because you're taking the advantage. Look at old Biden. He saw a way of cheating his way in, and he's like, whatever, do it. I don't want to know about it. You do whatever you got to do. I just want to win. Win, win, win. Same with this guy, Maduro. Do you really win? Do you really win? No. You don't really win. So, what I'm learning as I'm going through my life is, wow. Do I really want to win anymore? No, I don't want to. I want God to win. I want God's will to be what I am bringing to the world, not my own will. But it takes a lot of suffering. So I was telling you a story about losing the baby. God wanted to know, are you going to curse me? So we'll see. I have never cursed God for that. I just always was like, why? But I get it now. I look at my children who are from age 26 to 30, going to be 38 this month. I look at them and who am I? Who am I to keep them from experiencing suffering? A big thing to say, ain't it? You don't want your kids to suffer. You don't want them to experience suffering. You don't want that. No one wants that. But you look at baby boomers, their parents suffered. My parents suffered. So my parents didn't want their kids to suffer. It's kind of natural, isn't it? You don't want your kids to suffer. But without suffering, how do you build character? Character is not something you inherit. I didn't inherit it. I'm able to glean from my father's life where he got a lot of his character and his courage. And it all came from his suffering of life. It came through dealing with the suffering in a righteous way, not being a hateful, angry, driven through suffering and through anger and hatred of. No, suffering is an important part of life. I remember my dad talking about stress. People's like, I'm so stressed. Well, when you are stressed, that's when you either create more suffering for yourself or you take a step back and you look at the stress, whatever it is, and you say, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? Why am I suffering? Why am I stressed like this? Where did this come from? Did I cause this? Did I cause? Nope. Let's just say you didn't cause it. Let's just say here it comes. The suffering, some injustice. My dump truck got stolen the other day. And I thought, well, it served me right. Somebody told me don't leave it parked there. Somebody's going to steal it. Somebody stole it. But funny enough, it didn't go out of first gear because it's an automatic until it warms up. It's got something wrong with the transmission. And the guy only drove it 4 blocks and he thought, I'm not stealing this piece of crap. And he just pulled over and got out and walked away. I got my dump truck back. So the fact that my dump truck had a transmission problem just saved me $7,500. Like I kind of like that transmission now. I just start it up and let it warm up for a little bit. Then it works fine. I mean, everything in life has something behind it that you don't understand. We don't understand. So I looked at it and I was a little bit relieved that the stupid thing got stolen at first. I thought, oh, good. That piece of crap. I'm so sick of that thing. And then when they found it, I was like, I kind of did like that dump truck. Maybe now I'll get it fixed and I won't park it somewhere that I shouldn't park it, where the thieves are more likely to take it. Left it behind a dark building. Sure, they got in it and stole it. Amazing they even got it started, if you want the truth. But I look at all of the suffering that's happened in my life and I go, oh, self-inflicted, 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 self-inflicted. They're all self-inflicted. Every single one of them. Even being at the wrong place at the wrong time. You think, well, geez, I was just going to see a movie and somebody came up and mugged me. Well, maybe the movie was, an R-rated movie that you didn't really need to go see. Your wife didn't want to go see it anyway, so you went by yourself and you went to this movie and then you were alone and you got mugged because you were alone in a dark parking lot. Self-inflicted. Something said, don't go. Maybe that something was your wife or your husband. Maybe that something was just a little inner knowing that's, maybe I'll just stay home tonight. All of our suffering, if it's not self-inflicted, it is part of a learning that you are supposed to endure, that you are supposed to learn from. So, could you say the baby we lost was self-inflicted? Well, now that one's a tough one, ain't it? But it was part of a lesson that I was supposed to learn from. My wife and I were both supposed to learn from. And did we? I think we probably did. I learned so many lessons through that horrible experience. But it's supposed to bring us to a higher ground in our life. That's what I want, is I want to move to higher ground all the time. All right, how's that for the first show of the year for me? I don't know. It's up to you to decide. I'll be back again this week later on. See you then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of our program. There you go. That's all I can do for today because I got to go and finish doing some construction. See you later, Scott, over on Faces. Then we'll go over and turn all these